I'm a economist by training. I am 47 years. I started my Soviet experience in 1987 on the Trans-Siberian Express to Beijing, and came back in 94, 95, 96, and worked as an economist doing EU development work for small, medium-sized enterprises. First in St. Petersburg, and then in Almaty in Kazakhstan, and in Zaporozhye. And it was too early to do much small business development, so I went back home to Denmark and came back 8 years ago. Then this time to do my own business. Well, actually, I started doing other people's business, but the last 6 years I've been doing own business. You are free to interrupt me and ask questions during my presentation. Should I speak louder? Yes? Okay, did you hear any of what I said before? Yes, it was just an introduction and not... You'll have to see my presentation. You'll have to see my presentation with bad fonts because they will not move over. We have cool corporate fonts, and now it'll look like mess. I will talk about my company and on the journey that we are on in my company. The company is called Levatech, and we are a little more than a year old. And we are in the field of outsourcing, which is the subject here. Yeah. And the path we are on is we start with one client, and so we are going on the path of growing our market and becoming bigger to where it's more fun to be. It's not fun being a small outsourcing company, and it's a journey that I took before with my previous company, which was called Quadriga, which we sold to Cyclone last year in spring. I owned the company with a partner, and we had different ideas on which directions to take, and then sometimes it's just easier to leave it than to fight it, which is what we did, and then we started from scratch. So what I'll share with you are some of the thoughts that I have had myself on how we are moving, not exactly what we are doing, but some of the considerations that we have been doing. Blah, 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 blah. Why do you want to go outside, right? Why do clients want to talk to us in this room? My assumption is, by the way, my assumption when I'm talking is that pretty much everybody here is in the same considerations that we have been and we are, starting from scratch, starting from small company and wanting to go up and become at least mid-sized, well, to make more money than you do when you're just scraping up what falls from the other big guys. Correct? That's what's interesting here today. And the reason that Ukraine is nice for that kind of business is that, well, this slide is actually before revolution and everything. It's actually an old Quadriga slide, but that doesn't matter. The situation is the same. Ukraine is interesting because it's a democratic European country where people are smart and they're easy to work with. And it's easy to get to work, to visit each other. It's easy to travel here. It's easy for your partner to come where you are. Also, my assumption in all of this is European client. I know there are clients also in America, probably also good clients, but the greatest advantage we have is working when we're working with European clients. There are other places you can go. You can go far away. I have previously considered setting up shop in Bangladesh and been twice to Bangladesh and found partners. And Bangladesh cool if you know exactly what you want to do and where you don't need the closeness. If it's more mechanical, if you're looking for more hands than brains, there are not any Bangladeshi here today, right? No. And it's not because people in Bangladesh are not as smart as they are in Ukraine. No, they're not. They're smart people everywhere. But it's more difficult to engage the brain when it's in a different time zone and it's further away. You cannot, with the clients I've had here in Ukraine, it's always been, if it really had to be, the client could be here tomorrow. Okay, that means we all know the client could be here tomorrow. That means we think differently. I mean, it's always a danger that he appears. If we know, well, he's never going to be here, no matter what happens, it's going to take 2 weeks before he's here. Then it's different. You get it more, it's more immediate, and you feel more responsible because chances are higher that you will be asked questions, right? He will be breathing down your neck tomorrow. And to some people, that's not nice. But I feel myself, it's more interesting to engage more closely with people, with clients, with their needs and what we are doing. What this means from an economical point of view is if we have three locations, EU, Ukraine, and far away, then direct costs are highest if you are working with somebody you work with inside the EU. It's the guy down the street will be more expensive, but easier to work with. The other, the cost dimension is, the indirect costs. Indirect costs, what are they? Indirect is cost of something going wrong, management overhead, cost of travel, cost of being dead in the water for the first 48 hours after you arrived to Dhaka in Bangladesh. And then you add them up and sing hallelujah. For some clients, then Ukraine is just the smartest place. But the challenge is here that the graph is twisted. And it's not true because it's a sales tool. That Ukrainian developers in reality are some of the highest paid in the big global scheme. If you lined up all the developers in the world on one big line, then Ukrainians would be up in the top quarter. So the thing about being cheap is just not enough for us. It's only when we also address the indirect one and we think smart about being productive. Because cheap, we're not cheap. We are expensive in the big game. If we look at the market, then it's quite varied. Everybody needs IT, and everybody can offer IT. Setting up an outsourcing shop, you can go on to Odesk and put in a profile and say, I take your tasks. On the other side, you're a startup and you may say, I need developers, and I heard developers are cheap and good in Ukraine. And that's when they call us, and that's when they get disappointed. They thought it was going to get it for nothing. That is not the case. Each of the companies delivering have certain characteristics to be stable. And all of the clients have certain characteristics that we need to address when we're trying to sell to them. I don't have such a thing as a small outsourcer out there over on the left. I have specialists, I have mid-sized outsourcers, I have huge outsourcers, and I have large body shops. And the difference between them is, of course, size. And what I want to say is, well, you can basically take two directions in building your business, and that is either horizontal, grow your business and gain economy of scale in hiring people, or become a specialist focusing on a certain segment, on a vertical. And a company like Cyclum, I think, is the best example of the horizontal scaling. Enormous scale, right? Huge company, where the idea is to get unit cost as low as possible. To the specialists, you find a segment, a vertical segment, concentrate on the needs of that segment, and become world master in that segment. Some companies achieve the impossible, and then again they don't. But if we look at some of the big, outsourcing companies, but not body shops, achieve by focusing part of the company on a vertical. They try to achieve both of them, but there's a limit to how many verticals you can create. So in effect, whereas the horizontal company, you serve everybody. Then with the verticals, you decide who you want to serve. Question.
Excuse me, I wanted to clarify, what's the difference between a large outsourcer and a large body shop?
A large outsourcer would be a company like Luxoft, which has industry segmented divisions, or maybe not divisions, but they go quite far down. They have specialists in certain verticals. Mm-hmm. And a body shop, horizontal, we serve everybody. We have generic services. Yes. Mm-hmm. And we, in Quadriga, we started out as a body shop. Actually in Quadriga, we never achieved further. We never achieved, although we tried, we never achieved a vertical focus. And once you have decided that the core of my business is to produce a working seat with IT and recruitment and etc. as cheaply as possible, then it's very, very difficult to change the company and then say, our focus is the medical sector or financial sector or whatever. It's difficult to be both. Mm-hmm. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, the choice that all potential clients have is that they want to achieve more in their companies. When we are talking to them, it's because they want to achieve more. They want to have better economics, and they want to go further with the budgets that they have. They want to be able to continue to be able to respond better to their market, which is ironic because everything being equal, it's not going to make them any faster that they're working with somebody who's not sitting around the table. Mm-hmm. Right? The fact that you have somebody remotely makes it more difficult to be agile than by sitting around the table, at least for some segments. On the other side, we don't want the risks of not being agile, the risk of not meeting deadlines, the risk of bugs, the risk of the developer not having understood what it is that we want to achieve in the market. And the cost of compensating, and that is the main cost, the indirect cost, is the management overhead of over-communicating, of over-checking, over-talking, over-traveling to compensate for the distance between you and your remote team. The path that we have taken in Levertech now is twofold. We start being horizontal. And why is that? Why not go vertical from the beginning? And that is because to be credible in a vertical, you need to have a certain size, and you need to have references. You need to have you need to have credibility. Trust comes from that, from being able to see that you can actually do this.
Why do you need the size? Can you show some example of the size?
Well, you don't need to have a huge size. I'll tell you what we are doing. We are 15 people today, and we have 3 clients, and those clients are in one consultancy, a German consultancy that does .NET development wide. We have one client that does customization of Salesforce and Siebel. We have one client who does medical devices. And we decided to hook upon the medical device one. But in the beginning, we pretty much take what we need, also to get the economics in place, because you need to be, I would say, 20 people. 20 people that generate revenue and margin before you're stable and before you're able to generate any kind of cash that you can use for sales and marketing activities. What we no, I'll show you in a moment. So we start horizontal, plain thing, everybody else does. Probably we would be competing with Cyclum, but being a small company, we are capable of being more personalized around the client than a Cyclum would be able to be. So we start with, in the beginning, personal contact, and the fact that we have a foreigner living in Ukraine with the team. So we can be playing on both fields and be credible. The trust aspect of having a foreigner here, although, well, I have great respect for Ukrainians, or I wouldn't be living here. But to Westerners, it gives an extra benefit to have that the guy who shook the hand, they can call, and actually that person will be on site. Basically, you have 2 questions to answer, and those 2 questions, yes, you have 2 questions to answer. That is what you want to be doing, and who you want to be doing it for. The first question is where you want to be. You can decide just to be and this is all horizontal, right? You can do this for everybody. You can decide to rent chairs and IP. And people come in and they sit and they work, and you recruit somebody and they come and work for somebody else far away, and you are hands off, way at the bottom. Or you can decide to do the whole thing, to take a requirement document and realize that and deliver it as a package. The way we see the world is like this, that all IT goes through a process that starts with a business model. Actually, there could be something out further, namely basic research. There could be some university that got a brand old idea that somebody turns into a business opportunity. Business opportunity is turned into a product vision, an overall idea of what you want to do. The business person typically is not capable of taking that into specifications that somebody would be able to work on. And in much of outsourcing, I think that is the most critical point. The most critical point is when you go from business to IT. And actually, this is not even IT. This is structured thinking. And this is where the business person ends up taking difficult choices. That a business person, that somebody just got a brilliant business or product idea, is typically, it's very difficult for them to be able to say, but that Well, if you do that, then you cannot do that around the project at the micro level. So that's the most difficult and the most danger in much outsourcing, whoever's role it is that transition. Based on product requirements, you can do an architecture. After you have the architecture, you can start developing. And that is basically coding out here, well, coding and all the other technical disciplines around it, and then technical coordination in the middle. And the question to you will then be, where do I want to be good? Cyclum, not that I want to talk about Cyclum all the time, but Cyclum is good because it's a reference, because we all know what they do, so it's a reference that we can use to discuss. And it's I have only good things to say about Cyclum, so this is more an economic analysis than something else. That hiring people and putting them on chairs is where you can gain economy of scale. Bigger offices, bigger IT, bigger, fatter IP pipe. It requires that the client has a project manager and systems around it. This would be what we would call a full team. Architecture is a thing that often is good to offer as an added-on service, because a good architect, it's difficult to keep a good architect busy. You do product requirements and architecture only every now and then. Writing requirements, business analyst. You can do it or you cannot do it. It's sometimes it's good with the client, sometimes it's good with you. Whereas I will assume that the part over here is strictly client space. So this is the world that we are all acting in. And some of it moves quickly, stuff over on the right. Business ideas move more slowly. So our general argument to clients is that you want to be strategic, let us be operational. When we're cooperating, these are slides that these slides I use in part of what we do now is we try to reach out to companies that are not using remote resources today. I don't use the term outsourcing, because outsourcing means you are taking over somebody's problem. I don't want other people's problems. Give them to somebody else. No, I will help you solve your problems. The positive side of that is you get to be agile. You get to take decisions. Themselves, client gets to be agile and then reprioritize. Where does value come in this? Because we now have two organizations that are cooperating with each other. Value comes when the cooperation is seamless, that we don't have breaks in communication, that we don't have misunderstandings, what we want to achieve in the market. We don't have two different views of things in everyday life. We don't have big bugs. We meet our deadlines. That comes from people being self-thinking, being motivated, and having as little friction in cooperation as possible. The value disappears in the overhead of over-communicating, over-controlling, and managing people. And then the big value is when something goes wrong, when you hit the fence. The engagement models, and this is now for the question of how you want to be working with your clients. The engagement models, I think there are basically 4 of them, that you can do task outsourcing, you can do project outsourcing, you can do team extension, or you can do full managed teams. How many of you are doing project outsourcing today? And how many of you are doing team extension or managed teams? Okay. For how many of you would it be interesting that I discuss the differences between these? Okay. First question, when you turn to a client, is you decide, do you want to buy something that's managed or not? What does that mean? Well, managed means that you are interacting on, say, a weekly basis with somebody on the other side. Unmanaged means you're talking on a daily basis. Why would you choose, what makes you choose between them? Well, the managed one, you give away more of your problem. Managed one, you need the people on the other side to understand what it is that you want to achieve, for them to be able to take decisions on a daily basis. That takes more preparation. That takes probably visits to each other. That takes communication of vision and ideas. Unmanaged is not as dangerous, because if somebody goes off track, then you will know it the day after. Typically our teams run Scrum, daily stand-ups. So if somebody went like this, hopefully you will know it the day after. So you don't transfer as much vision and knowledge. You as client, you're keeping it on track. The other dimension is whether you are transaction or partnership based. Transaction based is when you sit with the client and the client doesn't trust you. The client thinks you're going to cheat him. He thinks you're going to cheat him. And what does cheating mean? That means you're going to underdeliver at a higher price, and you're going to waste your time with your feet up on the table. So he doesn't want to pay for hours. He will only pay for your delivery of exactly what he needs. What does that require? That requires for the two of you to sit together for a long, long, long time and defining exactly what it is that you're going to get, and you're going to end up arguing with each other anyways, because the moment you have signed the contract, your interest will go like this. Your interest, the only way you could, well, he went out to 5 different, he asked the whole 2 front rows, he asked all of you if you could do this, and he picked the one who made the mistake of being cheapest. That was you this week. And that means that the only way you're going to make money is by getting off more cheaply, by maybe underperforming. And when you're arguing, was this good enough or not, then you're always going to be lowballing, trying to get out of it. That's the only way you can make money in that model. And the client on the other side is going to try to stuff as much extra in your throat as absolutely possible. That's a transaction-based model. And it's like this because we don't know if we will be working together next year. So there's no incentive for me to be investing in our relationship and vice versa. So it's a confrontational model. Whereas the partnership model is a lot more fun, because we are not thinking about minimizing cost. We're thinking about creating value. And value comes by the two of us being on the same page, that we're going the same direction, that we are creating value together, that 1 and 1 is greater than 2. And it's absolute 1 and 1 in the transaction-based model, in the big picture, is sometimes just 1.5, and not more than 2. The difficult part about the partnership is that it takes trust on side of the client, because partnership model is typically hourly based. It is not with a fixed budget. So if there's any danger of you being with your feet up on the table, then the instinct of the client would be to run over to the transaction-based model. Where you can make money is over on the right. Not because you cheat the client, but because you have aligned your interests. And you have decided that what I want to do is what creates the most value for my client, because I make more value for myself in the process. Okay. Or it doesn't take a PhD to figure out that it's short-term and long-term thinking on both sides. And when I say that our company, we're taking a sort of a path where we're horizontal at the beginning, and then we go vertical afterwards. It is because it's to have credibility or to be over on the partnership side, but that we have to start out. You have to have some volume to be in partnership. Well, you need to have some offices. You need to have some chairs, some people there that people come in and see that you are credible. You are not just you're not just 10 people who come in and code in a code working space, but you're a real company. One of the arguments that we are using with our clients is that to be innovative, you need to be really innovative today. You cannot just outsourcing and innovation don't go well together. Why not? Because outsourcing is one way. Outsourcing, giving away the problem, has a waterfall thing to it. And you don't involve technical specialists in what we call the creative cycle. And what is the creative cycle? That is, if you look at the Eiffel Tower, the Eiffel Tower is a beautiful structure that was meant to be temporary, but it ends up being a permanent thing. The Eiffel Tower is strong and big and beautiful. If it had not been strong engineering, it wouldn't be standing there. But the beauty of the Eiffel Tower is the combination of innovation and engineering. And the same goes for when you're making good software. That you take ideas from technical people, from engineers, their ideas become part of the creative process, including all the way up to the product vision. And this is the moment that it changes from being outsourcing to being collaborative, value creation, partnership. Putting these together, right? We have 2 dimensions and we have 4 models. Then this is what you can be doing. You want to make software for other people? This is how you can be doing it. One of these four boxes. You can decide a freelance model, down on the right, non-managed, transaction-based. You just do the coding. You provide the developer. You solve a small technical task. From a client point of view, you can be lucky to have a motivated professional, but you don't have much control over the process. The client needs to be the one coordinating stuff. The client needs to be breaking down tasks into small micro tasks that somebody remotely can be doing. And this model is typically for individuals and not so much for companies. And when you're in this room, it's probably because you want to be your company or you want to be company. So it's not relevant. But as part of the market that you're working in, they are out there. Typically quite cheap for the client, but they take a greater role in coordinating, in managing and coordinating the work, the box before. Technical coordination lands on the client firmly. You can decide to do project outsourcing, managed, transaction-based. Sometimes when you do more projects in a row with the same client, you may be able to turn it towards partnership, but the basic model is it's a transaction, it's one contract, one deliverable, one cost. This model, you basically do everything. There's some cutover where the client delivers requirements to you. In most cases, your success in this will depend on the ability of the client to write those specifications, being complete, not overlapping, no white spaces, all decisions taken. This is hell if the client uses you as prototyping inside a project, fixed price project. That's when you put your head out the window and just scream. From client point of view, they save on the overhead because it's fire and forget, and it's not my problem. They can refer to a contract and say this is not what the contract says. But there's not much innovation in a model like this. If you wrote in a contract exactly, you made assumptions on how much time you're going to spend on this, then you're not going to spend your time writing back to the client and say, oh, why don't we do this, or do this, or do this, and we have these brilliant ideas, and no, you just want to get the job done, finished, delivered, give me my money. Team extension is where I have typically started in the stuff that I have been doing with clients. That is taking an existing client organization, supplementing with staff that sit at my place. In the beginning, it's not that much more than recruitment and the chair, paying out salary and IP. We try to take technical coordination to move upwards, to build systems that carry code repository and task management when the client don't have, for us to get closer to the client. It is an unmanaged service that we're giving, so it's up to the client. But it's a partnership model. Partnership is nice for all of us because it just continues. And we don't spend our time fighting with each other. It's a model where we align our interests. Seamless cooperation, meaning you can be innovative. Because we're in Ukraine, it's easy to travel back and forth and see each other. It's motivating to work in a team like this because you are in daily stand-ups. You're talking to the client. You're talking also from the individual point of view. It's interesting because you get to work closely with others. It's also, it can be more stressful because there's nowhere to hide. Well, Scrum is stressful because there is nowhere to hide. But and it's not for everybody. Some people better want their feet up on the table. Because you're talking to the team daily, then you don't have the much risk of the unexpected, in theory, at least. But there's a lot of overhead in it because you are managing individuals remotely and you need to be traveling to them. We typically will try to start out in this model with clients and then merge them and help them establish local management, that we either split off the team, create a standalone team with local management, and move up this value chain. And we can move all the way up to where you would have an old project outsourcing. Managed partnership. And looking at these models, then objectively, if you take the 10,000 meter view on things, 30,000 feet, then the most value is created up in the managed team that understands your business objectives, that understands your technology, that understands what you want to achieve. And the least value is created down at the bottom. And And the variation in this is how close you align your interests with the interests of the client. That is what is difficult. We blah blah blah. Okay, I will. We're using these. Propaganda. Have a look. When we are talking to our clients, we use this. We created a tool for discussing with them. This is an educative tool, and I bought a handful of them, and the most aggressive ones of you can steal one. The idea here is the educational part is to sit with a client who normally wouldn't be considering outsourcing. Oh, I used the word again. Remote workers, and help them understand where to cut over, because when things go to hell, it's because people haven't thought about how does business come from a business objective, business idea to code, and so we created this for the discussion with clients, and that has been. It's been good for us in the interaction with the client. And that's what we're doing horizontally. That's one of the things that we're doing horizontally. We are going vertical in the fields of medical technology based on the one client we have. But you have to start somewhere. And we exhibit at... I have a sales guy in Germany. And we become members of... medico circles of clusters. So we're a member of a cluster in Berlin, a cluster, a German biotech cluster, a Danish biotech cluster. We're exhibiting at Medica next week, which is the world's largest medical technology fair in Düsseldorf. And we are just a small company, because we have one marketing manager, we have the guy in Germany, and we have me that are doing sales. But by joining these organizations and by doing stuff like this, then suddenly they think we are bigger than we are. And we're big enough that we are credible from a size point of view. That people come and see our office, well, there are people working, and we're a real company. So that strategy is the one that we're following now. Horizontal and then vertical. Vertical is where you can make more money. Yes. And now questions. We have probably 15 seconds left.
No, just 3 minutes.
Oh.
Вопросы? I have 2 questions. The first one, you were talking about how outsourcing and innovation don't mix well together, and I wanted you to tell a bit more about how you overcoming this problem. And the other question is, what if you don't have any European guy in your team, either in Ukraine or there? The representative, how to overcome this trust issue with?
Yes, where does trust come from? The first question of outsourcing. Well, outsourcing is basically a transaction-based thing where you don't trust each other. If you don't trust each other, then you're not creating value together. Innovation comes if you feel that you and I have shared goals, but my goal is to get as much out of you for as little money as possible, and your goal is to give me as little as possible, to produce as little as possible. So we are not together, right? We're not saying let us create value together. How to solve it? That is to push your clients into a partnership model. And partnership model means that Well, these ones are the simple ones that I have shown, because we're still talking pretty much delivering resources in different ways. But if you're smaller, and maybe your client is also smaller, then identify, client, what is important to you? What is it that you want to achieve? You can also go into, if you're advanced, you can go into agile-based fixed price models. So you have a mix of fixed price and variable price. But for those to work, you also need to have established the trust. And one of the ways we create trust is actually by having people on the right. I have a German who, actually he's British, but he runs around Germany and talks English and shakes hands, and me being in Ukraine. And so if there's a problem, they call me on my mobile phone, and I go beat people up, and it rarely happens, but it just it feels nice for them. Your challenge is to speak the language of the client, whether it is in the vertical. It becomes more difficult when you're in the vertical, because then you need to have intimate understanding of what happens, of your competition, and what your clients are trying to achieve. But if you're in the horizontal level, then speaking the language of the client means understanding what can go wrong. That is, what is important to the client, and show the client how you're addressing those things up front. Tell them if you're starting with him buying a resource from you, then emphasizing you need to spend time with each other. It's not just about price, right? That he's going to cost $2,000 per month, $5,000 per month. No, $4,000. It's about how do we integrate him in your organization. Mm-hmm. Well, you need to put some money aside for having him travel to see you. If you want to do a mobile application, add it to the what he's doing here. Use the fact, well, you have this person assigned to you permanently. We can use him as a project manager for a mobile application. You will have low risk because they're sitting close to each other. Remember, there's the overhead. People don't want overhead. They don't want risk of things going wrong. And the more trust they have in you, the less risk they feel. So if you tell them the whole time you're emphasizing, I minimize risk. If you work with me, then we do together what we can not to go off track. That means you understand and you respect what the client wants, or what his objectives are.
Actually, it's no time, but I think that now we will have a dinner break, so we can communicate. Any more questions?
Hi. Do you hear me? Okay. I was on previous event, and the person from Quadriga was actually present and telling about the marketing. So I remember it was more like inbound style, organizing conferences, educational events, etc., etc. Now you're basically starting a new company. How do you do it? Is it still inbound style, or you more direct style, and you're reaching out to the clients? So could you a little bit tell more about how you're getting clients in?
I would say we are, compared to before, we are quite a bit more aggressive and outbound. And we do a lot of contacting. We use email a lot. We go to conferences, or we go to exhibitions, and we will contact thousands of people. Don't start doing it, because then the mailboxes will fill up. But we contact a lot, we reach out a lot, and because we have people on the ground, that's why we participate in the networking level locally. And cycles are long. With direct, you want to have fast results, but it still takes forever, right? It still takes a year, and it's not until now that we start. I mean, this is the fifth company that I start, and it's the same every time. That it takes, you think, okay, this is going to take 6 months, and then we're going to have the offices full, and then And then it takes 9 months and nothing happens. Then it takes 12, but nothing happens. And then suddenly, then it comes. Then it comes, and you never know until afterwards. You never know when it broke. It's not until afterwards that you understand. You simply cannot predict. But we are quite outbound. We also do some stuff. We also do the newsletters and to stay in people's minds. So, and it's not enough that you hit them one time. For this stuff, they need to see your name 3, 4, 5 times before they have enough trust that they want to start talking to you. Unless it's a transaction-based stuff. Transaction-based stuff, you just send out to 20 suppliers and say, give me the cheapest price. So you want to lift it to a higher level, and that requires the many-time contact.
Спасибо, Джеспер. Давайте поблагодарим. Итак, первая часть конференции у нас подходит к концу. Сейчас обеденный перерыв. Я знаю, что у нас здесь очень много приезжих. Для этого мы сделали полезную карту с местами, где можно покушать.